Imagine opening your Social Security statement one year and seeing your check is over $400 smaller than before. According to a new government report, that's exactly what could happen starting in 2032, unless something changes. Let's break down what's actually happening, based on the Social Security Administration's own 2026 Trustees Report, released in June this year. Social Security's main retirement fund, officially called the OASI Trust Fund, which stands for Old Age and Survivors Insurance, is projected to run out of reserves in late 2032. That's 1 year sooner than the previous report had estimated, which had pointed to 2033. Now, it's important to understand what running out actually means here. Social Security is not disappearing, and payments are not stopping. Even after the trust fund reserves are used up, the program will still be collecting payroll taxes from working Americans. But that incoming tax revenue alone won't be enough to cover the full amount of benefits currently scheduled. According to the trustees' projections, once the reserves are depleted in late 2032, incoming payroll taxes would only be able to cover about 78% of scheduled benefits. In other words, without any changes from Congress, benefit payments across the board would automatically be reduced by around 22%. So what does that look like in real numbers? The average monthly retirement benefit in 2026 is around $2,071. A 22% reduction on that average would come out to a decrease of roughly $456 a month. To be clear, this is a general reference figure based on the current average benefit, not a personal prediction, since actual amounts vary by individual earnings history. This wouldn't just affect people who retire after 2032. It would apply to anyone receiving benefits at that time, including people who are already retired. Before we go further, let's take a step back and understand how Social Security is actually funded in the first place, because that helps explain why this shortfall exists. Social Security is primarily paid for through a payroll tax. Right now, employees pay 6.2% of their wages into the program, and employers match that with another 6.2%. For a combined 12.4%. If you're self-employed, you pay both halves yourself, so the full 12.4% comes directly out of your income. There's also a cap on how much income gets taxed each year. In 2026, that cap sits at $184,500. Wages above that amount are not subject to the Social Security payroll tax. On top of payroll taxes, the trust fund also earns interest on the reserves it holds, which are invested in special U.S. Treasury securities, and it receives some revenue from taxes collected on benefits paid to higher-income retirees. This system isn't new, and it isn't the first time Social Security has faced a funding crisis. Back in the early 1980s, the program came dangerously close to running out of money completely. By 1982, the Retirement Trust Fund had shrunk to about a third of its previous peak, and there was real concern that checks could stop going out entirely. In response, Congress passed the Social Security Amendments of 1983, based on recommendations from a bipartisan group known as the Greenspan Commission. That reform package did a few key things. It gradually raised the full retirement age from 65 to 67, phased in gradually between the years 2000 and 2027. It introduced taxation of Social Security benefits for higher-income retirees for the first time in the program's history, and it accelerated payroll tax increases that were already scheduled. Together, these changes were projected to fix roughly two-thirds of the long-term funding shortfall at the time. That 1983 fix is actually a big part of why the trust fund built up such a large surplus over the following decades. But now, as the baby boomer generation retires in large numbers and life expectancy continues to rise, the program is drawing that surplus back down. And the trustees say the remaining gap from back then was never fully closed. Why is the current shortfall happening faster than expected? The trustees pointed to a tax law passed in 2025 that reduced how much revenue flows into the trust fund from taxes on Social Security benefits. They also factored in lower projected fertility rates and reduced immigration numbers, both of which affect how many future workers will be paying into the system. There's some additional context worth knowing. Social Security actually has two connected trust funds, one for retirement and survivors benefits, and a separate one for disability benefits. When those two funds are combined, the money is projected to last a bit longer, until 2034, at which point about 83% of benefits could still be paid. It's also worth noting that Social Security isn't the only federal trust fund under this kind of pressure. Medicare's Hospital Insurance Trust Fund, which helps cover inpatient hospital costs, is separately projected to face depletion around 2033, at which point it would be able to cover about 89% of inpatient care costs. So this pattern of trust funds facing rising strain isn't isolated to Social Security alone. It reflects a broader shift as the U.S. population ages. Part of the long-term pressure on the program comes down to demographics. Back in 1966, there were close to 4 workers paying into the system for every one person collecting benefits. Today, that ratio has dropped to about 2.6 workers per beneficiary, and it's projected to keep declining as more people retire and life expectancy continues to increase. This report affects a large number of people. Social Security currently serves around 70 million beneficiaries and is funded by payroll taxes from about 185 million working Americans. According to policy researchers who track public opinion on this issue, a large majority of voters, around 95% in one survey, say it's important to them that lawmakers take action to strengthen Social Security's finances. So what can lawmakers actually do about it? Congress does have several options on the table. One option would be raising or eliminating that income cap we mentioned earlier, so that higher earners pay Social Security tax on more of their income. Another option would be gradually raising the payroll tax rate itself, similar to what was done in past reforms. A third option involves adjusting the retirement age further, building on the same kind of phased approach used back in 1983. And a fourth option would be changing the formula used to calculate benefits for future retirees. Each of these approaches comes with trade-offs, and lawmakers from different parties tend to favor different combinations of them. According to the trustees' report, the longer these decisions are delayed, the larger and more sudden any eventual changes would need to be. History does show that Congress has acted before, under similar pressure, back in 1983. But as of this report, no final decisions have been made, and this remains an ongoing policy discussion in Washington. This video features an AI-generated avatar and is for informational and educational purposes only. It does not constitute financial advice. Please consult a licensed financial professional before making any retirement or financial decisions. Social Security's future is still being written, and Congress has time to act before 2032. We'll keep following this story and bring you updates as new reports come out. If you want to stay informed on what's happening with your retirement, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next update.